New video, save day, everything. All right, so I just want to get into the whole how I was able to save $10,000 by time it was time for me to hit closing. And this is the reason why my broker and my real estate agent had so much faith in me, because they knew that I was saving. I think if I did not save, say I just banked on that $2,000 being in my savings, I don't think I'll be in this house. But I just want to give you guys a way that you can save money, or how I basically saved money and was able to have $10,000 in the bank by time I got down to the closing date. So if you're a couple or if you're single, you should be able to do this. Especially if you're a couple, it should be easier for you than if you're single. If you're living with your parents, definitely easy for you. So basically, honestly, all I did was just save $500 a week. I just saved $500 a week, and I was able to have $10,000 in the bank by the time it came down to closing, because there's 4 weeks in a month. And if we're gonna count from, I guess, let's say March, April, let's just say September, August, July, June, May. So and the reason why I only ended up having 10,000 and not more is because, of course, I'm using my money for other things. There was other houses that ended up coming up that I wasted money on, blah, blah, blah. I'll get into that. But 5 months, it should only take you 5 months to save up $10,000. That's $2,000 a month in 5 months. And again, if you do live by yourself and you have, what is it called? And you have rent to pay, you're going to have to just tailor how much you save a week to what you can afford, clearly. And if this dream of yours, especially of buying a house on your own, is that important to you, you have to give up certain things if this dream is that important to you. I had a kind of a good blessing that I decided to buy a house in 2020 because there was nothing to do. There was nothing to spend money on. There was no trips to go on. There was no food to buy. There was no outfits to buy to go on these trips. So 2020 actually made it a lot easier for me to buy a house. And with the money that I was making and not having a car payment, I was just able to basically just throw all my money into my savings. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I was able to have $10,000 by the time this went through, because I definitely needed to have a certain amount of money by the time all this went through. I think if I still had $2,000, it probably would have been a problem. I probably wouldn't be having a house right now. I probably would still be going through the home buying process, because we will be constantly starting this thing all over again. So that's the first part I want to talk about. Now the next part I want to talk about really quickly was other options. Because again, like I said, who knows how many years down the line somebody might see this video. Bank of America may not have this program, and I think that these 3 other things will still be here in the future. So one of them is a 203k loan, the other one is the veteran/military loan, and the other one is the USDA loan. Again, I don't have much detail on it, but I remember the research that I did and these being some options that I was looking into. Now, I've never been in the military, so how this was going to work, and it was going to be a long shot, was that I was going to ask my dad to be the one and like me be the co-signer on the house to help me buy the house, because he was in the military and he would be the only one who would have access to this loan, basically. You have to have been in the military, you have to be in the military in order to use this loan. So I know that unfortunately this loan is definitely limited. So that's the reason I just wanted to put that out there and get that out the way. But I believe with this loan, and down in the comments you could talk about it and correct me definitely if I am wrong, because I know for a fact I can be wrong. But I believe this loan helps you pay most of your house. Like, I think you basically walk into the house with $0 down, or they may pay your down payment. I'm unsure. I did not do the research before I did this video. So my goal is just to give you information and you do your own research. I know it would be definitely a lot more helpful if I did the research for you and just spoon-fed it to you in this video, but I unfortunately did not do that. So, like I said, there's a military loan, and then the next loan is a 203k loan. So this loan is much like a normal housing loan, But I believe, in my head, I believe, because this is what I was going to do, and again, I could be wrong. Talk about it in the comments. Do your research. With a 203K loan, you basically end up buying a house that needs to be fixed up. You buy a house. So I believe what you have to do is you have to find a house that's within your means, and also tack on how much it would be to renovate this house. So, for example, say I found a house that was, I guess, in distress for $100,000, and I want to put another $100,000 into this home. That means that this home would now be $200,000. So that means I need to be able to afford a $200,000 loan. But the reason why this is a good option, I believe, if I am not wrong, it takes this house should be able to be renovated, I believe, within 6 months. So if you're actually able to save within that 6 months, what you need for your down payment and closing costs, you should be able to afford this home. At the end of the day, though, before you get this loan, you should be able to afford this home. You should have money saved. In this case, you can't have just $2,000 in the bank. I believe if you went in wanting to do this loan, I would say probably at least have $10,000. I would say honestly have $10,000 in the bank just in general. But again, this video was about how I bought a house with $2,000 in the bank. But nonetheless, I believe that you should have $10,000 in the bank with these other mortgages out there. So like this one, I think that you should at least have maybe $5,000 to $10,000 in the bank, because even though you can save for 6 months, you just want to be stable, in my opinion. So with this loan, in my head, what I was going to do was basically go in, get this loan, and then save for 6 months to be able to afford this house after the 6 months. So to me, that's a good option. You're able to buy a house maybe where you want it to be and fix it up to how you want it to be. This was my dream loan when I was originally looking, before I knew about the Bank of America loan, and this was going to be how I was going to be able to afford my house on the water. Not this one in particular, but a house near the water or on the water somewhere else. So that's one loan. And then the last one I want to talk about is the USDA loan. Again, there's always stipulations to any of these loans. I think out of all three of these, the 203K loan might be the one that has the least amount of stipulations as to what is available to you. Meaning the military loan, you have to have been in the military. And then with this USDA loan, you have to be willing to want to live in a rural area. Whereas the 203K loan, you can live anywhere. It's just, again, you just need to have a savings. For any of these, like I said, you need to have a savings. So this one, you need to be able to live in a rural area. So if you I live in Connecticut, which there are definitely rural areas, but there's, of course, where you want to live, anywhere where you want to live is the city. Not necessarily the city, but somewhere local. And the only rural area that I would have been able and willing to live in that was actually going to be affordable to me would have been Monroe, or I think maybe somewhere in Wallingford, but definitely Monroe. And it was really hard to come by houses out there because you were either living deep in the woods or something like that, hence rural area. I wanted it to be a situation where I could be close enough to life and not just in a rural area. So that was pretty hard to figure out. But with that loan, I think that they pay, and again, do your research. I don't know if they pay a majority of it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you go into the home, again, scot-free. I don't think you have to, give me 1 second. I think you just go into this, I think you can just go into this house scot-free. It's just that you have to be willing to live in a rural area. So there's that. And those are the other three options that I can give you. I don't know if there's going to be any more by the time you see this video. I don't know if there's actually any more, because I know there's construction loans, there's your regular loans, so on and so forth. And that actually, so this rural loan can actually bring me into my home buying process, because I remember before talking to my actual realtor, who's my friend, I remember going out there and looking at the USDA loan, which was funny. So I went, because again, with the USDA loan too, you have to go to certain banks. Not every bank does this loan. So I remember going to this bank, and there, it was so funny, because I think I had found a house, I believe it was probably in Monroe, and remember going into that bank and I was gonna pull the trigger, and I don't know what happened, and I don't know in what month that was. I know I was definitely at my third new job, but I don't remember when that was. I don't remember if it was cold. It had to be cold, but I just can't remember though. But that was funny because I was really gonna pull a trigger and look at like a home in a rural area because I needed help buying a home. And God, that's all I have to say. God is just super amazing. So we'll go past that because I can't remember much. But I'll talk about the home buying process now, which, oh man. I'll talk about the 3.5 houses that I ended up basically making bids on. And I'll just talk about them really quickly and how kind of like overwhelming and how like annoying the process became because of 2020. So I'll go into give you a little backstory about 2020. Not the whole panoramic, but what ended up happening in the housing market. So long story short, I was looking at houses at the beginning. Like I said, I've been looking at houses since basically 2019, but not really like diving deep into looking at them. And I remember like in February, I started to look a lot more in 2020. It is funny. I watched, as I was buying my home, trying to find my home, I watched the market go up. Houses that weren't worth what they were listing them for were selling them. And there was that rumor that a lot of New Yorkers are moving in here and making the prices go higher. Not necessarily making the prices go higher, but they were able to afford these higher prices. And also with the interest rates being so low, it was becoming like a rapid market. Houses were going like crazy. And I would say that was true. I was in that. I was getting the houses like that. I was getting the houses. But yeah, anyway, but I was also a factor in probably a New Yorker buying me out and losing a house. So nonetheless, I started in February and I ended up finding a house, I believe, in March. And I'll give you a backstory on what I was planning on doing. So my goal going into this wasn't to necessarily buy a house for myself. It was to buy a house for me and my family. And with that, I'll give you what I needed for both houses, being my family versus my actual house. So, and there was something different for every single house. If I was willing to give it this water, it would have been so easy for me just to find a house for myself. But I needed the water. So nonetheless, for my parents, we basically needed a 3-bedroom house with a finished basement or a 4-bedroom house. We needed me to have my own area, meaning hence why we needed a finished basement, or we needed an upstairs. And in my head, we needed a bedroom to be on the first floor as well as a bathroom, and we needed about 2.5 bathrooms, or maybe 2 bathrooms at minimum and 3 bathrooms maybe at maximum. So the reason why we needed 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, finished basement, was because my mom and dad needs their room. We need a room for when the nieces spend a night. We need a room for me, and we need a room for my dad's man cave. So with that being said, we needed 4 bedrooms. Now the 3 bathrooms or 2 bathrooms or 2.5 bathrooms, basically we need one for my parents if there's going to be one on the main level. We need one probably in the basement, and we need one for my dad. And I don't know how that was going to be situated, but currently where my parents live, they have they have 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. So when I was living there, I had my own bedroom, had my own bathroom. My parents had their own room, had their own bathroom. My dad has his man cave, has his own half bathroom. And there was a 4th bedroom for guests and or my mom's like work area, because now she works from home and sometimes she would just chill in the living room. So that's what we have and that's what we're used to. So that's what we were basically looking for. Whereas versus my house, what I wanted, minimal. I remember I was willing to live with one of my friends and have her to move in with me. So then I was kind of looking for like 3 bedrooms, maybe 2 baths. And that's it. Maximum. Minimum would be me living by myself, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. That's all I needed. But I needed water. So that's what kind of threw my situation through the ringer. and made it a lot harder. And then as time went by, I started to come up with new, which kind of sucks, but I started to come up with new kind of stipulations to what I wanted. So then I no longer just wanted, I no longer want to live on one side of Connecticut. I wanted to live on the other side of the Connecticut, meaning, originally I was willing to live in Brantford, and then I changed my mind, no longer wanted to live in Brantford. So I then changed to only wanting to live from basically Milford down. And Milford was where I really wanted to live. West Haven, and I'm giving you kind of like weird, but West Haven was no longer an option because of taxes, and then Brantford became a thing. And I got to get into taxes and all the other good stuff and credit and all that. So nonetheless, basically things started to change, and that's what ended up happening. So with that being said, the first house that I ended up finding was for me and my parents. And I remember going in, it was pretty nice. Like, I'm talking about like being able to bid on your first house. The first house, and I almost started with the wrong first house. So the first house was perfect. It just needed a little bit of fixing up. A little bit of fixing up. It was doable. It was a ranch, which was amazing. I believe it had 3 bedrooms, basically finished basement with its own kitchen, own bathroom, and yeah, perfect house. But somebody already had put in a bid the same day. They took the first offer, lost the house. Second house, and also with that, with the market being what it was and kind of what it is, you can't lowball. So I had to actually basically give them what they were asking for, if not a little bit more, to be able to win this house. And I still didn't. They went with the first offer. So then the second house I ended up finding, again, was in Hampden. And another stipulation that my parents have is not wanting to live with oil. So this house, there was a gas line somewhere, and in our contract, make sure you have things that you want your contract that people either have to do, or it has to be figured out before you're able to buy this house. So in my contract, I was able to put must have access to gas line on street, something along those lines. We ended up finding the gas line, but it was a street over, and it would have cost basically $10,000 to convert our house to gas. So that house ended up not working out because of that factor. The $10,000 just wasn't going to work. But the house was also an amazing house. Finished basement. Basement had its own bathroom. Not kitchen, but definitely had its own full bathroom. So that would have been my area. And again, when I was looking for my parents, I didn't want it to be, this is like another side note, I didn't want the basement to be where they had to walk into my area to access the laundry room. That was like another thing, because there was a lot of houses that we looked at with which basements were finished, and my mom loved them. But in my head, I'm just like, no, you have to walk into my area just to get to the washing machine. That's not fun. I want it to be my room door, bathroom, whatever. So yeah, so again, this house was pretty perfect because I had my own room, closed off from the washer and dryer. There was 3 bedrooms upstairs. Lovely kitchen. Really didn't need any updating. Lovely kitchen in my opinion. Lovely backyard. There was a little shed. And the only thing that needed to be done on this house was the siding and probably the roof. And definitely in my price range. I believe that this one was like under $200,000, but that whole oil thing just didn't let this one work out. So then moving on, a lot of time was passing by. I believe we ended up maybe in May. Yeah, we ended up in May, and I remember around that time I was kind of like losing momentum to find the house for my parents. And that's when I was just like, well, with the market, and this basically, if I think had the market stayed where it was, meaning like the houses that I was looking at only being like $100 and something thousand, I would have definitely have brought a house for me and my family. But as the prices start to go up, I'm like, and I don't want this to sound bad, but I was like, why would I spend this amount of money on something that isn't mine and it would end up being theirs? And then it would be like a backward cycle where I would need my mom to buy my house for me. Like, that just didn't make any sense to me. So I was just like, if that's the case, I might as well save up money for them and give them a gift of whatever whenever they get ready to buy their house. And that's when I kind of start to flip the script a little, and I was looking for houses for them, but then I started to look for houses for myself. And then I believe it was May or June when I found the house that was on the water. It was a cute little house. I would say that it was cute. Because again, this house wasn't that big. It was actually only 800 square feet. But I at that point, I started to fall in love with tiny homes, like meaning like the ones that you like literally can move or whatever. And so I'm like 800 square feet is fine with me. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, kitchen, and it was on a big lot. So if ever in the future I wanted to be able to expand, I could. And when you walked out, you had a pond right there. It was so gorgeous. It wasn't a traditional house. It had like freaking like what was it called? Logs as its like siding. It was so cute. But long story short, it was basically under probate, and they did some shady stuff. And I feel like what ended up happening was this house was listed at like $250. There was no comps in the area. And let me give you some background. So comps are basically houses that justify the amount of money that you would spend or buy on another house, or justify how much a person sells their house for. So meaning if in an area or even on a street, a lot of houses were selling, no, we could just talk area. So meaning bigger than your street. So like, let's say a lot of houses were selling for $250, $260, $270, around those ballpark areas, you could sell your house for that based on the criteria of those houses. So say a house that had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath sold for $250, you can list your house that's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath for $250. Say that there was a house in your street say you didn't have a 2 bedroom, 1 bath to compare it against. Say there was a 3 bedroom, 2 baths that sold for $270. You can sell yours for $250 or something like that. So again, in this area, there were no comps to compare it to. So they were trying to sell this 800 square foot house for freaking $250, and I was telling my realtor that ain't right, and he said the same thing. So I watched it. It went down to $225, and then I went in when I seen it. So he was just like, I don't think that you should offer $225. I think that you should offer this, and that's what I did. So what I ended up doing is I'm going to use another word and give you the definition of that word. So I went in and I basically offered them, I believe it was $215 with 15 back in concessions. So concessions are basically money that you get back. So meaning that's what I did with this house. So I offered them, I think $215 with $3,000 in concessions. I mean, this is money that they give you back. This is money that you can use towards your closing costs. It's just basically free money. And so my realtor was like, always go in with concessions if you can. A lot of houses that I was bidding on, some of them I wasn't able to go in with concessions. Like at the beginning, I wasn't able to. And the next house I'm going to tell you about, I wasn't able to either. But long story short, the original house, I went in with concessions, but they did some shady stuff. I paid for an inspection and everything, and they pulled out. And you cannot find anything on Google for what happens when a seller pulls out. You could definitely find stuff for when a freaking buyer pulls out. So nonetheless, they end up pulling out on me, and I didn't get that house. So then, boom, I ended up looking at a house while I was looking at that house in Milford. Little cute house. Again, this house is like 800 square feet. Super cute. It was on the water in Milford. Again, like I said, is where I wanted to live. This house was pretty perfect because in my opinion, it was so low. Like it was super low because it needed some fixing up and all that other good stuff. And this would have been a house that if I was to ever move out, I can actually like rent this house out because it's in a perfect area. It's in Milford. You can walk to the little like downtown little thing. It was super cute. But the people were just kind of rude and mean. And long story short, I told them that I needed to get this house inspected properly before I did anything. They didn't understand that, so they thought that I had started the mortgaging process. I was like, no, I'm not starting the mortgaging process when I have to look at the foundation of this home. So long story short, they were rude, they were mean. They were like, you either have to, they gave me like another contract that was like, you have to close by this date or whatever. And my realtor didn't even notice that they actually pushed up the date. And so basically I couldn't get the house. I just had to pull out. And I think also, much like the house before, they got somebody who offered them more because that house sold, just like the house before, the house sold in 2 weeks. So they had somebody who gave them more money or something like that. So that ended up happening. And then I found this house. So like literally the day that all ended up happening, I told my realtor I seen this house. I love this house. We went to go see it the next day, made an offer, got the house, got the concessions for it, and I was able to buy this lovely house. Now, let's talk about a little bit before I end this video. Let's talk a little bit about credit and taxes and condos. So first, I want to start with credit. So I would say use this thing called, no, I don't know what I'm saying. Use this thing. Use Google and type in mortgage calculator. And when you use the mortgage calculator, make sure it's the one that's the most detailed. So I think you have to like hit the little cursor and it moves over. Use the one that's most detailed and fluctuate. Put in everything that you need to put in as far as the criteria, as far as the amount of money on the house, how much you plan on putting for the down payment. Try to money you make, how much you plan on putting for the down payment, how much the house is, and play with the credit score. Because around then my credit score was super high. It was like around 750 plus, 770 plus, I forget what it was. But make sure your credit, to me, is no lower than a 700 if you want to be able to get super good rates. Because any lower than that, you're going to end up paying more. And everybody knows this. Based on your credit, you end up paying more or less for something. And so make sure, I say you use that and look into that when you get ready to buy a home. Because if your credit is sitting at one thing, you want to work to get it to another. So meaning if your credit is 650, and maybe that's all you can get it to at that time, just know you're going to be paying more in interest. But if you can work to get that credit up to something new, do that. So yes, be sure to make sure that your credit is good. Don't have anything against your credit. When they say don't buy a car when you get ready to buy a house, do not buy a car. Do not buy anything that requires you to have an extensive loan before you get ready to buy a house, because that will count against you. I didn't do that, but I'm just saying it is definitely true. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are taxes. So taxes can also depict what you are able to afford with the house. Lower taxes, clearly easier to afford the house. Higher taxes, not so much. So that's kind of what ended up swaying where I was looking. So like Hamden, their taxes were $6,000 for what, for why, for how. And taxes are going to be going up every single year. Where I live now, my taxes are only $2,000. When I was looking in Milford, the taxes were about $3,000 to $4,000. And when I was looking in West Haven, the taxes on that house that I was looking at was about $5,000. And that's what kind of made me a little bit hesitant. And I think God knew that, and that's the reason why everything ended up happening with that house the way it did. But that house would have been, for an 800 square foot house, that house would have been steep on my income and how much money I would have been putting into this house type of situation. So I think that house worked out the way it did because it was essentially kind of like so high when it came down to the taxes, even though it was only a $200,000 house, but those taxes were $5,000, and every year those taxes are going to go up. And if you're not making money to then pay for that house and those taxes, then it's kind of like, what are you doing? So I think things worked out that way for a reason. So definitely look into taxes, because that will depict how much you are actually going to pay for your house. You can find a house of your dreams. There are houses out there. There were houses out there, $200,000, $11,000 taxes. Who, what, when, where, and why are going to be paying that? So yeah. So be sure to look at taxes, because that also changes the price of your house. And then the quick last part I want to get into was condos, because my parents were asking me, why don't I look at condos? And again, much like taxes, you have to pay a fee to live there. So I was looking at condos, cute little condos. Remember, there was like a super cute condo that was on the water. I think it was like 1 bedroom, but I think it could easily be converted into a 2-bedroom. It was 1 bedroom, blah, blah, blah. Very cute. But they wanted $300 a month for HOA fees, and much like taxes, HOA fees can go up, and sometimes these stupid HOA fees can go up and you're getting nothing out of this. My HOA fees where I currently live are only $60. And again, like I said, I live in an association. I don't live in a condo because, again, my house is freestanding. So it's also kind of like weird, because when you have to do certain things, I'm getting solar panels, and I needed to get consent that this roof was mine to get solar panels. And I'm like, yeah, it's my house. Like, I could do whatever I want to my house. I could do whatever I want outside of these walls. But because I live in an association, certain companies have to go through certain hoops because they don't want it to be where it's just like, oh crap, this is a condo. If you're trying to put solar panels on her one little piece of condo that's attached to other other condo homes. So yes, that's the reason why I didn't end up getting a condo, because much like taxes, you have to pay HOA fees. So let's say there was a $100,000 condo or something like that, or $150,000 condo. Let's go with actually $120,000 condo. Let's go with that. Let's go with that, and let's say that that includes the taxes and everything. And I'm paying $1,200 a month. If my HOA fees are $300 a month, I'm basically paying $1,500 to live in this condo. And so that's what basically stopped me from like looking at condos, because I don't know what type of math I just did. I think I'm going to say whatever. I don't know what math I just did, but let's just say, I don't even know why I even brought up a price of a house, because that math was probably all the way wrong. But let's just say my house cost me $1,200 a month, including taxes. If I have to pay $300 HOA fees, that means that my house is now $1,500. And that's what I didn't want to do. So that's why I didn't end up getting a condo. And that's why I went to look for a house, because I knew in my heart of hearts that a house would be much more affordable. So yes, that is the end of how I was able to afford a house with $2,000 in the bank. And maybe at the end of this video, I will actually put in like some of like the process, or maybe I'll just do another video where there's just a whole bunch of like clips and slides from when I was looking at houses, because it was pretty fun. It was funny. It was definitely hard. It was definitely overwhelming, because I remember there was another house I forgot to include in this little ramble that I fell in love with. I fell in love with it. It was foreclosed, and it just was outside of my price range. I would have definitely had to have a roommate there, but it was a gorgeous house. I believe it was like, I think it was like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I remember I would have my own bath in my room, and like the other person would have their own bath, full bath. It was a gorgeous house, and it was like from like 2008. So it was like there was like an iPad in the wall, because they had this whole entire crazy hookup system, and you could smell the beach. I mean, you couldn't see the beach, but you can smell the beach where you were. It was definitely like, and the area was just super amazing. And that house, like a lot of the houses made me smile. But that house was definitely something special. That was like something that you can grow in and like literally never move out of it, like never move out, because it was just the cutest house and it had everything. But nonetheless, let me get off of that, because now I'm in my lovely little cute house, my lovely little 2-bedroom, if you want to consider it 3 bath. The only thing I am going to have to get used to with this house is spiders and bugs. And that's the thing that's killing me here at this house, because I'm not used to that whatsoever, because I kind of live in the woods basically. Like I'm looking at woods right now, looking at the water over here. But yeah, I didn't know when you live near water, more spiders, more bugs. Now I know. So God willing, He will help me get over this phobia and fear. Nonetheless, I'm here to end this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on my socials at Maya_love, MAYA_LOVE. And I will see you later. Bye.